Welcome back to Symphony of the Night Decompilation on Made Up of Wires. Appreciate you all showing up. It's going to be another short one today. So let's get right into it. You can go to soten.c.dev to learn more about the Symphony of the Night Decompilation project. And what we've been doing here is working on the Grant Ralph Sifa boss fight, and we're pretty much done. There's a little bit more to go. 3 functions that need to be cleaned up a little bit. One of them, interestingly, I was able to match on the PSP last night with a bonkers change. There's possibly more that needs to be done that would work on the PSP that would also work on the PlayStation. We'll look into that. And what else? I don't know. Go to Discord, go to GitHub, and see me. I don't know what you can see me do on GitHub. Flail, maybe that's it. All right, so we're gonna get into it. I'm gonna go over a little bit about what I have been doing. We'll go over to the terminal for that. So, hey Volto, good to have you. We splat to split the files that are on the game disk. So as part of the build process, we get images of the game disk. There's targets in the make file that will take your game disk and give you an image that you can use for decompilation or emulators or whatever you want. And we take the files off the disk. This is the path to that extracted file, and those files have machine code embedded in them, and what we're doing is splitting up those files into multiple parts using a disassembler called spim that's invoked by splat. A lot of names, don't worry if you're not following. The important part is that we have this file on disk, and then we're going to go through and say what each and every single part of that file means and what it's related to. And so this is the PlayStation version. I can get rid of this to do because I've done it already. And as part of this, we split each of the portions of that file into different C source files that we think are approximately where the file boundaries are, and there's different artifacts that occur in the compiled binary that give us some hints as to where that might be. But also we look at the order that functions come in a file, and if they come in a slightly different order in a different overlay or a different version of the game, then we know that those probably were separate files and they were compiled in a different order. So what we want to do when we're compiling both the PSP and the PlayStation version of the game is to try to ensure that the same functions exist in the same order in every file. And that's what I was doing a little bit last night and this morning. And so what we're left with is a few more include ASMs right now in the PSP version than the PlayStation version. We have 3 left in the PlayStation version, 5 left here. I want to go through and see which ones of these are actually decompiled and get the source, if possible, into each one of these files. And then that just helps confirm that we have these file alignments the same. So on the other side is the PSP version of this config, and it does the same thing, but some of the files are out of order. The order of each of the sections is different, and so we kind of have to keep track of that. So in this list on the left, if one of these entries is prefixed with RBO O_PSP, that means right now we're using a PSP specific version of that, and if it doesn't have the _PSP, then it's sharing the same code with the PlayStation version of the game, and that's what we want to get to eventually. Right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, is that right? I can type. Yeah, 4 unique PSP functions. I actually think I have more than that in a directory, so that means There's probably things that I need to get rid of. E-init is being used, okay. And then a header file. Actually, I'm looking good. All right. So let's go here though and look at where these are. I try to be really good about deleting the files as they're merged in. I don't recall offhand which of these is which, and if we have anything decompiled for them. Let me... Is this the one that I was working on last night? No. This is not either. Let me try to find... I just noticed the blinking. Was that new? The blinking of the frog? It's incredible. Let's see which one it was. It was one of the longer ones. 22 hours ago. It's going to be too long. Sorry about that. Might not be able to find it. Okay, well, we'll figure it out in a little bit. When I find that file, though, I will call it out. Actually, this might be... No, this one's not it. So, a few things that have changed or that I've resolved is now each of the entity IDs here should work. So as long as those are in place, this should be fine to move over. These are all going to be unknown. And I'll have to update that here as well. This is just for decomp.me. These will already exist. And they're mapped properly. Let's see what else I screwed up. This should be EID. So there's going to be some cases here. Hey, Roman, good to have you. Where this animate entity global probably is... Oh yeah, we have a bunch of these. Well, that's a bummer. So I'm going to have to move these over. And we have to go through each one of these. I kind of wanted to avoid doing that, but... I think it's better to do it this way than to map all the data first, unfortunately. We're going to go through and find, except for the create entity cases, I need to replace all of these globals with their PSP equivalent. And that should, I don't think it'll get us to 100%, but it'll be close. And I usually don't do this at the start because I don't know how quickly I'll be able to integrate both the PlayStation and the PSP versions into the same file, or how I'm going to go about doing that. And so I usually make that a late decision, depending on how I feel. Like I said, there's kind of two options. I could import the data, or I could map the symbols. 3 options. I could just replace the symbols like I'm doing here. That's the easiest. But later on, when I go to reconcile these files, it'll make it a little more difficult. The entities is fine. Let's go to the top and see what we got. Still do have some more. Some of these I wonder if I should, like the functions, should I map those symbols? I don't know. We'll get through it and then deal with that later. Why to today? What you could put off until tomorrow, right? Are we close? We're getting there. Almost done. So maybe 5 more. The one thing that is, I think, beneficial to doing it this way is there may be other things. Let's go way down to the bottom. If this one has, it doesn't, yeah, it does. It has this debug section at the bottom. And so there's going to be data that may or may not be mapped correctly. And if it's not mapped correctly, I would rather not have to deal with symbols being missing too. Debugging one issue is much easier than debugging a bunch at the same time. Oop, screwed that up. So I think we got them all. Nope, missing one. This one actually might be correct now that I think about it. Sometimes these are mapped already. In this case, not. All right, so these are going to be necessary, these global variable declarations, so we're going to take those. We're not going to worry about the entity IDs. Those are in a header and should be ready for us already. Let's see if this works. There's not undefined reference, so I may have mapped this function. So we can, because the automatic function names have the offset virtual memory address in there, we can look for it in the symbol file, and if it's not there, we can look for it in a symbol table from the ELF file that gets created. Not there. So let's do this. Let's, I'll use read ELF. And we want PSPEU BORBO.elf.o. We have a .o for the whole thing. Oh, we have a dot. We have a map. I'll use the map. And let's see what that was again. Okay, let's see where this function is. Oh, yeah. I was using the US name, and that the symbol that I was trying to replace is the one that was missing. Okay, so we have a few undefined references. These may be mapped. Let's hope that that's the case. That thing may not be. We're gonna do the same thing. If they're in the symbol table, great. They are. This one is. This is the 158. That's the only one we're missing. All right, so this is what I was mentioning before. It looks like the text down here, the crawl debug text, is not mapped correctly. So we have to go figure out where that is and what it was originally pointing to and map that. And that, again, is something that's going to be important when we're merging these files. So it's, I'd much rather have it done now. So I want to look for data related to unknown 89. Oh, and the issue is that it was coming from the assembly extracted data and not from our C file. And so hopefully that's all the issue was. Now I have a few more. These may be mapped. Hey, Wumpty Dump Center. I'm trying to merge in all of the code that I haven't yet for the PSP. What I'm going to do is create a new scratch for this function with all of the updated symbols, because it is possible that I've mapped all of these for some reason or another since starting that scratch. And that's what happens when you don't do things right away. So let's, when you leave things to sit, somehow they get stale and they don't work. There are no non-matchings, RBO, unknown 90, A98. Oh, we do have a RO. We do have RO data there too. Let's make sure that that exists. Yes, it does. All right, so we're going to create a new scratch, same as the old scratch. While I'm getting verified as a human, are you a human? Do you like Decomp? Maybe you should like and subscribe. How's that for a plug? So we're gonna just go with the one we have. We may need the animate frame struct. And all right, so we do have some symbols that are different, so we have to go through and refix symbols that have changed. Oh, these are pretty good. And I'm glad this is what it is. So each of these we're going to replace with their entity IDs. And that's pretty straightforward. So these are all checks to see and then what we will do That should be fine. Known identifier. What is it upset about? There we go. I'm going to get rid of all of these. And we'll go through these one by one. And that should allow us to fix this. We could fix our EID. So it's going to be D_PSPU_E. And let's go to the next one. And we'll just go through one by one. Sun wasn't caught earlier, I don't think. Did that work? This is the fun part, integrating everything and getting it to work. This whole process is so crazy to me. Just the amount of effort that has gone in to build all of this tooling is really impressive, and I'm constantly in awe of the lengths that people have gone through to be able to do this. We're going to go way down to line 348. That's our last one. Shout out to all the tool builders, all the hackers. Let me fix this macro. It's just PSP, not PSPEU. All right, and now we're back at 90, which is where I wanted to be. We can try again. One more time. This time we'll get it for sure. Nothing can stop us. Okay, same issue before. I forgot to rename this function. That's okay. Because these start out as PlayStation functions, inevitably in my Scratch, I get so we're running into the same issue here. So let's look at where this is and why might not. Why this might be not visible. This part of A98 data. Oh, this is a bummer. Okay, so we're in a pickle. There's data because the PSP puts strings in data and not RO data. We have data that we haven't imported yet, as well as some data that we have. And so optimally, that string will be at the very end or very beginning of this file, and then we can split it between data that we've defined in C and data that we're importing. Fortunately, this does exist at the end of the file, so what we're going to do is split off this last section and basically have two entries for unknown A98. One is going to be a dot data starting at that curl, and one is going to be just a data coming from the assembly. And fortunately, Splat is able to build the linker script to do all that. Now what does it not like? I said fortunately. All right, so let me do one more thing. We're gonna call this something else. And possibly that won't confuse Splat. Yeah, okay. I don't know why it didn't work. I do this all the time on the PlayStation version. I don't know if it's something about the way the PSP stuff is linked. I'm not sure. But we got it. So that's that. So at the top of these files, I should have written it's the same as some other file on the PlayStation side. And so if we look at that file, do a diff between them, what I want to see is what changes are necessary to make these two files the same. And let's throw that into less. And so we would expect the function names to be different. There's a static here that we probably need, possibly an init that's not properly named. I can get rid of all those EIDs. Those don't matter anymore. I probably have to update actually the function. So this is the same declarations, but in the PSP address space. And then, yeah, the entity ID declarations, those need to be fixed. There's some cleanup that Soten Lint came through and did that I probably should run again to get rid of some of this noise. Mostly what I'm seeing, wanting to see is how difficult is this going to be to merge when I merge? And I think really the only thing that I need to be concerned about is the data. Because once the once all the data is imported, then the symbol names don't matter. And we can use whatever we want for those. Symbols again. So I did see a few things beyond just symbols that probably are worth fixing. I'm gonna do some of that real fast. So the first one was this top one should be an init. And that's pretty easy. The EID stuff, these are all going to be EID unknown. We're going to look for things that are EID and then a number. That's not how we name things. I just did it to take a shortcut in decomp.me. And entity ID. Those are the ones that I remember. And that works fine. And well, this whole section here goes away. right. So, let's do that diff again. So it looks like our function can be static. That might be worth doing. And then we have our variable differences, sound effect IDs. And that looks like that. So as this data comes in and as those symbols are updated, these files should converge further, and then I can replace one with the other. All right, so the next one is put this in there. Now we have one more that has an assembly function still in it that is done elsewhere. And it's another one where it's relatively long. That split comment, I'm not sure if that's correct. So what we're really doing here is we're getting close to the end, and need to start converging. So this one there still is some errors here. This isn't the one that I was looking at yesterday, but I'm going to see if a similar change does the same thing. So in the one yesterday, let's look at 128 here, see if we see a bunch of noise. We don't. One of these that I was looking at yesterday, there was a check like this that was being done, and changing it to greater or equal to 2 allowed the entire thing to compile. And this one is pretty similar. We're doing much better than it was before. We still do have some register issues at the top, but everything around here is gone. What a pain. Those are the worst. Let's see what else we have. 344. This has the possibility of being pulled into a variable. Actually, let's look at velocity x. But not there. Those usually don't affect anything except for masks. Like this case, we should see a mask show up. Try not here. Again, that probably won't affect register selection. So the remaining ones, we have to somewhat carefully see. What else may be going on there? Like I said, that other one was found by being changing greater than 1 to greater or equal to 2. There may be others like that. And it could be having both of them. That makes it worse. Let's look at other things around that. That is also slightly better. So my guess is that this value is probably some macro, or not macro, enum related to the game state. And that's going to have some meaning beyond just the numeric value, like we're in the cutscene or something to that effect. And unfortunately, though, we won't know until we find exactly which one it is. And it may affect the PlayStation in a different way. All right, so we got a little closer there. Unfortunately, didn't quite solve it yet. I'm going to look for the PlayStation version of this. My guess is that this isn't a match. Maybe it is. So PlayStation does look like it's matching. PlayStation don't care. So we're going to see if these changes affect the PlayStation version at all. They don't. And let's see if that one has been merged in already for the PlayStation. If we have to leave some of these for the PSP as not decompiled, I think that's fine. So we do have a implementation ready. We're just not matching there. So there's that one. Lovely. And then I don't think I'll be able to get to the other ones today. I'm hoping to finish this off tomorrow. I think this is the one that started this whole greater than equals saga, because this one I was able to get to match on the PSP. It's a huge function. I don't have the symbols, so I'd have to go through and change all the symbols in the same way, as well as the entity IDs. This one was down on line 257. Well, for whatever reason, last night, as I was looking at this, 237? This just popped out at me, and but that's not greater or equal to 1. Is it? No, that's fine. Changing this to greater than 1 just completely destroys this whole thing. Really not ideal. But we're not doing anything else with this. So my guess is this is probably a count for how many of the trio have been defeated. I'll put a little note there. And so from that, we can probably identify what the main functions are for each of the characters as well. That's all the time that I have for today, though. I was hoping to get a little more done, but didn't happen. Vermar. Is it possible to try this project before it's finished? Something like compile a DLL from already decompiled functions. So there's a couple things that people have been able to do. You can recompile the game with any changes you make and build a PlayStation compatible disc that you can use in an emulator or on a real PlayStation and play your modified version of the game. So that is possible, and there's some mods even built into the GitHub project that would allow you to do that. There is a bunch of work. So for like a Windows native build, you don't just need the code for this game, you need some way to re-implement the PlayStation SDK and map that to Windows calls, and there's a couple adjacent projects that are doing just that. So maybe one day there will be a Windows port, but as for now, not quite. And we don't have everything done yet, so it would be incomplete. So go to soten.z.dev to learn more about the project, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Adios.